Welcome to Jets Rewind. I'm Marty Schupak. I'm joined by Ray Clifford and Ralph Schwarega. Today is Friday, January 24th. And if you guys out there ever thought that the NFL wasn't a 365-day a year sport, boy, I'll tell you, things happen pretty quickly. And today was one of those days. Before I say hello, I just want to mention that Josina Anderson is reporting that the Jets have hired Darren Muji as the general manager. Now, this has not been confirmed.
I've heard it from a lot of different sources already, Marty.
Did you hear from Adam
They'll
Schefter?
say the same thing, but nothing official.
Yeah, nothing official. I would say it's true, guys.
Yeah, I think it's a
I,
done
I, I'm
deal. Yeah,
just figuring they're working on the details with the salary
exactly.
and
Yeah.
all that. And maybe they want to meet him to meet Aaron Glenn. But nevertheless, how you guys doing? Ralph, how you doing?
I'm doing great. But the one thing that concerned me was when they said to Darren Muji, "You got to meet Darren Glenn." He said, "Aaron Glenn." He said, "Aaron who?" So I think we got a problem here already.
Ray, how are you doing, Ray?
Uh, Doing okay. Looking forward to tomorrow and thawing out a little. We're supposed to
Yeah,
actually crack the freezing point tomorrow.
yeah, it's been brutal in the Northeast, right, in Ohio. We have a full agenda because we're going to talk a lot about um, our new coach, Aaron Glenn, the pluses and minuses, and we're going to also get into Darren Muji, assuming that he is going to be GM, and then we're going to talk about the staff. And just so you guys know, on Monday they're going to have a press conference at 1 o'clock. So it's a DVR alert. Apparently, there's going to be dozens of ex-Jets at the press conference in support of Aaron Glenn. So that should be fun. But as always, Ralph Schwarega has a classic Jets trivia question to get the ball rolling as we all are meeting at the 50-yard line for the coin toss. Go ahead, Ralph.
Okay, Captain Schupak and Captain Clifford. Here we go. This is a Jet coaching trivia question. And the question is, what do Bill Parcells, Al Groh, Herman, we got to play to win Edwards, Mangenius, Rex Ryan, and Todd Bowles all have in common as Jet coaches?
We're gonna have to wait to the end for this.
You want to
Yeah,
hear it?
I'd like to hear it.
they
How
all
about
have
you?
losing records.
Because I have another question, but go ahead.
Okay. The answer is they all had winning records their first year as Jet coach.
Okay, that
It,
is
it went south with Gase and Sala. And I don't give much credit to those two guys, but they had the worst rosters the last
Yeah,
two times.
yeah, by far.
But there's hope because none of these, this is not a bunch of Hall of Famers except for Parcells, and they stepped in and they all found a way to win. So hope
yeah.
springs eternal.
We'll get into that. I'll ask you like two quick Marty's quick trivia right away. Ralph, I'm sure knows it
Yeah.
because he's more on the internet than Ray, but I'll ask it anyway. Our alleged general manager, Darren Muji, is a former quarterback for San Diego State. He's actually measures at 6'6".
Was he a quarterback?
He was a quarterback at San Diego
Oh, I
State.
thought he was
The
a wide
question is,
receiver. Yeah.
the question is, what quarterback did he replace at San Diego State, who today he's very close with?
A car.
Nope. Ray?
Oh,
And what's his name's brother?
McCown.
Dan.
McCown.
No.
Good guess. No. The head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, Kevin O'Connell.
Ah,
Wow.
And apparently they're very close. I saw something also that they were roommates, but that's not confirmed. One last
that's a
one.
good question, Marty. Good one.
Yeah, one last one. We'll get right into the Jets and Aaron Glenn. Today, Pete Carroll was named the head coach of Las Vegas Raiders, the former Jet coach. Like every coach in the NFL is a former Jet coach. This is his fourth team. How many coaches in the modern day NFL, I guess last 50 years, have coached 4 different teams.
Oh my gosh, that's I have to think about that one.
Wait, you want to come back to that?
Yeah, I do you have any thoughts on that offhand,
Many.
Ray?
Uh,
Dan Reeves might come to mind as
No,
one,
I'll
but
tell you what, one is so obvious, you'll kill yourself if you don't get it. But let's get right into the Aaron Glenn. We'll
oh,
come back.
Parcells,
Bill
Parcells.
Parcells is one.
Right,
You
yeah.
want the other one?
Oh, there's two?
There's two.
There's two. No,
hang on.
I'll think
Hold
about
on.
it.
Yeah.
Think
Let's,
about it. All right.
This is like in the Super Bowl era.
Yeah, like the last 50 years.
Okay.
Yeah, or last 40, you know.
All right.
All right, here we go. Ralph, Aaron Glenn was hired. He played for the Jets for 8 years, a defensive back from Texas A&M, kind of undersized. They listed him at 5'9". I think he was more like 5'8" and a half. He got into coaching with Bill Parcells, who set him up with a scouting gig. I think he started with the Jets, and he worked his way up. He did a very, very good job. I think the highlight was the defense against Sam Darnold. The last game, he everyone brings up that there were 12 men on the field for that one play. They got penalized. But my opinion is, with the injuries he had and everything, you can't form an opinion on one game because if you look, Dan Quinn, his last game with the Cowboys as defensive coordinator, they got blown out by the Green Bay Packers. So with that said, Ralph, what's your take on Aaron Glenn?
No, you can't one play or one game. Is of course that's ridiculous. My take is that, you know, obviously I'm backing him now. I would rather have had, as Marty's mantra for the last 3 years was, I want a coach who's got some experience as a head coach. We both wanted Flores. I'm not going to turn this into
Yes.
a Flores thing. Flores stood up to a tough owner. Is this job as Jets coach is one of the toughest, it's not, if not the toughest jobs in the league for many reasons. First of all, we have a really difficult owner who can be a real fool at times. The fans have no patience at all. And, you know, if they get blown out their first 2 games, they're going to be grousing immediately. The press is very aggressive. And there's the history that lingers over this team like a dark cloud. And, you know, you have a bumbled play in the first game, and here we go again, same old Jets. The negativity starts up. It's a very tough gig. And I would have really liked to have had someone who's been through the ringer already. I do think that Aaron Glenn would not have gotten this job if he wasn't a former Jet. If he had the same career, which was a great career, he's a terrific player. But I don't think that's necessarily a reason to hire a guy. I think that's a mistake. You know, and I think that you know we could have we could have done. I would have rather had a guy who was a you know had experience, but he's our guy now, and so we have to just hope that finally lightning strikes.
Well, let me ask you this, Ralph, before I ask Ray the same question. If we could not get an experienced coach, who would have been your first choice and second choice as coach of the Jets?
Oh, that's a good question. You know, give me a minute to think about that because I've already, you know, so many names have come by.
Sure. Okay. Ray, what's your take on Aaron Glenn as being the new head coach of the New York Jets?
you know, um, first time coaches are always kind of like the draft. They're a crapshoot and how they'll handle things. I think, and I agree with a lot of the reasons why Ralph didn't want one. But a few of the reasons I was okay with it is one, he played in New York. He's familiar with the fan base. He's familiar with the press. He knows what he's getting his ass into. So, you know, from those standpoints, you know, it's not like he's coming in, all wide-eyed and, not, just thinking everything's going to be, peaches and cream. But he knows what he's getting into. But I also like it because he went to Parcells when he said he wanted to get into coaching. And Parcells basically said, if you want to, I'll tell you what you got to do. But if you don't listen to me, basically, then don't bother. But he did. And he said, start at the bottom and work your way up and get to know everything about the coaching, don't just be a defensive coach. Know know what's involved in recruiting and scouting and know what's involved with, every level that you're at, what's involved. And I think he did that. And so if we're going to get a first year coach, I guess that one would have been my choice for a lot of those reasons. I think he's got a lot to offer, but you know, it's still the Jets, and he's stepping into a season that was a steaming pile. So he's
Right.
gonna he's gonna have, if people are expecting quick results, I don't think they're gonna be real happy. I think he can make a difference right off the bat in a lot of ways, but whether or not, if people are thinking we're gonna, all of a sudden win 10 or 11 games, I don't know about that, but I think we can show improvement. I think we can show we're on the upward trend, and that's what I'm looking for.
Well, yeah, and my opinion is always that with a coach, two biggest thing is I want to see how he manages the last 2 minutes of a game when they're down by, let's say, 5 points and they get the ball at their own 25, 30 yard line. And I want to see how he manages his timeouts. And my biggest thing is when Ralph, Ray, and Marty, and all Jet fans know during the game, the end of the half or the end of the game, when he's got to call a timeout, then all of a sudden, like between 10 and 18 seconds run off the clock. Nothing drives us crazier than that. And I want to see how he handles that. Because to me, it just seems that NFL coaches, for the most part, they really don't know how to use their timeouts and they don't know how to manage the clock. There are very few coaches that know how to do that. So that's what I judge it on. Ralph, do you want to come back and answer that question?
Yeah, the thing that I'm going to be looking at most closely for him is how accountable he holds players who screw up. We just went through a kumbaya, 4 years where it didn't matter if you made mistakes or not because, everybody's good and, we don't want to hurt feelings. I just heard an interview with Aaron Glenn where he's talking about how, he wants to be able to communicate with players. It's not old school coaching anymore. It is more touchy-feely, but it's got to only be up to a point. And we'll get into the assistant coaches later. But, I was thinking about, he's going to bring in some of his own players. All coaches do. And there are a lot of Lions who are free agents on defense. And, that's a good news, bad news thing because it's good news in that he knows how these players tick. So, but the bad news is sometimes these coaches can be blinded by their friendships with these guys. And, like we saw with with guys like Solomon Thomas and Kinlaw, guys who really didn't deserve that as much as they got. But, they have a relationship and that kind of skews things. So that's always a concern. And it's something you have to watch out for. You want to see that he has the courage to cut guys who are, have been with him for a while, if they're not doing the job. So I would say those are my two areas of concern.
Well, to me also, Ralph and Ray, let's get right into the assistant coaches. I've seen a slew of names that have been tossed around, and I'm hoping that at least one assistant coach on the staff was a full-time head coach at one point. I thought that Robert Saleh should have had that. That was a mistake. But just some of the names, Steve Wilkes as defensive coordinator. I want to come back to him. Mark Brunell, Chris Banjo, special teams, uh, former Bears head interim coach Thomas Brown, uh, Todd Haley. I don't have great feelings about Todd Haley. I think he's really rough around the edges. I don't know if he really could fit into the system. And Ray, one of your favorites, they might bring out of retirement just for the preseason and a consultant, Mike Westhoff. He seems to be very close to Aaron Glenn, which
How
should
old is he now? And is he in good health? I mean,
he's not in
Jesus.
good health. And Rich Cimini wrote about that. He can't really coach full time, but I think
as
there's
a
a shot.
mentor, as a mentor to someone,
Which I like.
Been on
Yeah, I have
meetings.
no problem with that. Yeah. Marty, two more names I'll throw out. Nick Caley from the LA Rams,
Love him.
who's,
I love him.
yeah, I'd like him too. But Houston just fired Bobby Slowick, so they're going to go after Caley. And Slowick is a name that, we could consider too. He's from the Kyle Shanahan tree.
Right. Ray, did you see that? Like just right before we went on the air, they fired Slowick.
I had heard something about it.
Offensive coordinator who actually the
Yeah.
Jets interviewed for head coach.
That's
Right.
right. Yes. Yeah.
Which is, to me, it's incredible. It really is. And everything is just happening so fast. But you're right, Ralph. Kaylee, I think, would be a great choice. Now, when they mention Mark Brunell, I don't know if they're talking about a quarterback's coach or offensive coordinator.
Well, I think he's the quarterback's coach for Darnold, so he probably would have to become the coordinator because he can't make a lateral move unless Minnesota gets rid
No,
of
I
him.
think you're thinking of Josh McCown. This is Mark
Oh,
Brunell.
right. Who was that? Wait, where was? But I think he was a quarterback coach. Is it for what? Jared Goff? Is he?
I'm guessing while we're talking about that, I will Google it.
Maybe it wasn't. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
confused.
it's Mark Brunell, who actually, if you remember, Mark Brunell was on the Jets.
Yeah.
He was a backup for Mark Sanchez.
Mark Brunell was one of 1,000 excellent football players that the Jets got when they were over the hill. I mean, we could make a whole Hall of Fame with all these guys the Jets brought in too late. It was ridiculous.
Right.
But I like Brunell. I do like him.
Yeah, he's the current quarterbacks coach of Detroit.
Right. Yeah. And he got there the same year as Goff. And so, yeah, I mean, you got to give him some points for what happened there too.
Right. And we're going to get into the quarterback situation in just a moment. I just want to mention, though, because I was looking at this guy, Steve Wilkes, and I had a number of questions. And in fact, the day after I was looking at him, Boomer Esiason and WFAN was talking about the same thing. This guy has had like 19 coaching jobs in 19 years. It's like he coaches for 1 year and gets fired. I don't get it. I don't understand it. And I don't know, Ray, you had mentioned me, you thought he had a raw deal when he was head coach at Arizona, but I think that he didn't have a great record.
No, he had a terrible record, but sometimes, that's
Right.
not the whole story.
They weren't a good team, but I thought he had them competing at least. I mean, Arizona was a perennial doormat for a long time. Once Kurt Warner and those guys left. Hey, I was just looking though. Brunell is the quarterbacks coach at the Lions. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, with Wilkes, who his quarterback was that year? It was the rookie Josh Rosen, my favorite.
Right.
So you got to give Wilkes credit. He was able to get Arizona the first pick, so they got Tyler Murray. So
Josh Rosen right now is at the Wharton School of Business going for his MBA. I know, Ralph, you're a groupie.
Maybe he could be our
cap guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ray and you both have nice jet caps right now, so I don't think we need a cap guy for a green rewind.
All right, hey, quickly talking about the assistants, and I mentioned I'm not that high on Steve Wilkes.
Right, yeah.
I could be wrong, and I'm not that high on what's his name,
Haley.
But I saw also he might be like an offensive consultant or offensive advisor, which I'm okay with that. But Ray, who do you think is the most important assistant coach that he should hire at this point?
The offensive coordinator to me. I mean, there were others that really weren't mentioned, right? Like who's going to coach like the offensive line and stuff like that.
Right.
I haven't heard anything about offensive line.
I haven't either. So I would say that would be the one that I would really like to hear about. But I think the most important one is to me is the offensive coordinator, and secondly the defensive coordinator, because I think that we've run such what seems like a dysfunctional offense for so long, and that has a lot to do with the talent too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, our offensive line hasn't exactly been stellar for the last decade, but we need somebody who doesn't think that the only way to get a yard is to run it up the middle, um, and use our second strongest back as opposed to the one who would normally get that yard. I like Ben Johnson because of his not uniqueness, but his ability, how he just came up with ways to do plays that was different, and that's what I'd like to see out of a coordinator is somebody who's just got a different view on things and that could go for defense as well. Just just somebody who's got like I don't know if you were watching the game with Detroit and Washington, but early in that game, Detroit ran a pitch out or an end around that turned into a shovel pass to the running back, and he took it for like 30 yards. It's things like that that you like to see out of the new guys. It's something that's just got a different perspective when they get into it. And so I think the offensive coordinator to me is the guy who I want to see make the biggest change in this team.
Okay, and I want to ask Ralph the same thing, but what's interesting too, Ray, I just want to point out that Ben Johnson was not Campbell's first offensive coordinator. He had somebody else,
Right.
he brought him in, and
Right.
I'm hoping that Aaron Glenn will recognize if he has a weakness after his first year, one of his hires, that he won't be reluctant to get rid of him. Okay, Ralph, what do you say? I'm sure you saying offensive coordinator too.
No, I don't. I say offensive line coach
Ah,
because I think that we haven't had a good offensive line coach probably since who? Callahan, maybe way back
Yeah,
when
that's
we
who
were.
I remember as being
Yeah.
good.
See, my feeling is that if the offensive line is good, it can cover you can deal with a mediocre play caller because they'll make everything easier and make I heard someone in football make a crack the other day saying Ben Johnson has been working with one of the best offensive lines in football for 3 years. Let's see how good his plays work when he goes to Chicago.
Yeah.
um, Obviously they're all important, but I just feel like it's been so long. I feel like our offensive line is underperformed, and we got a bunch of high picks. I don't know if they're great, but they should be doing better than they are. And if we get a guy who can get them cracking, I just feel like Rodgers will function better, and certainly the running game will function better. And we don't even, so, I think everything goes through the offensive line. So
right.
that's
I think you're right, but still, I would say for me, it's offensive coordinator and two names that we didn't mention. Just so you know, his name's been floating around. Clint Kubiak
right.
from the Kubiak tree,
Right.
and also apparently someone that is thought of incredibly high as a tremendous leader in the Jets building, Scott McGowan or Josh McGowan,
Josh McCown.
who is the quarterbacks coach. But he was up a couple of years ago for the head coaching job at Houston. So, and he's very close to Sam Darnold. And
Yeah. I have.
apparently, he wants to be a head coach.
Right. Yeah, that's what I've heard. If he's not a
And
head coach, which to me is kind of ballsy for a guy who's had so little experience, I don't get that at all.
I don't either. I don't understand why he wouldn't put in his time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it doesn't matter if he gets resentment from other coordinators or not. That's not
No, but I don't think I'd want him as a head coach right now. He's too green
right.
as far as
I
I'm
would
concerned.
love him
Yeah.
as offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I would take a shot at that. And the thing I want to mention about these hires, I won't be upset if Aaron Glenn hires coordinators who he doesn't have a history with, because if things go wrong, it'll be easier for him to fire them. Salah probably, and LaFleur, that was awkward. And obviously Hackett was around too long. There was no reason for him to be here last year. But he had a history not only with Rodgers but with Salah too. So I don't like that stuff. It worries me. You got to be all business in this, and hopefully Aaron Glenn has that side of him.
Yes. Ray, you know, under contract, I think for one more year, Aaron Rodgers. And if the Jets end up keeping him, I know in 2026 it's a tremendous cap hit. But besides that, we don't know if it's not him who's going to be quarterback. There's they have a Jordan Travis who was injured. I happen to like,
This is our guy to hang our hat on,
yeah, I
Jordan
like
Travis.
Adrian Gonzalez. I think he's talented. But Ray, do you think that Glenn will keep Aaron Rodgers? What's your feeling?
I did hear somebody saying that, and I don't know where they heard it, that Glenn said he wanted Rodgers back. I'm okay with it. I mean, he's probably, unless somebody comes available as a free agent, but you're going to pay out the rear end for any quarterbacks in the market these days. So I don't know if they can afford any really high end quarterback as a free agent. But I still think Aaron has abilities and the ability to do the job at a high level.
Aaron Rodgers, because I'll tell you, in
Yeah,
New York, we are getting swamped with. I'm suffocated with Aaron's. I got Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Glenn, Aaron Judge, Aaron Boone, and the Aaron's. And
well, I'm not
that's
a Yankee fan, so I'm only two of
it
them.
doesn't matter.
Don't forget
But
Tommy and
I
Henry
think
Aaron too.
I think I
But
think
anyway,
I
uh,
think it's down to Aaron's progression from last year to next year, if he's still with the Jets, is going to be based again on the offensive line. But I think I'd be okay with it. And I think he will very seriously consider bringing him back, and it won't surprise me if he does.
Ralph, Caley is how old? He's like what,
He's
38?
he's in his 30s, like most of these guys. Yeah,
So
he's
actually,
young.
he's younger than Aaron Rodgers. Okay.
Oh, well, everyone's
Oh,
younger
yeah.
than Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. I mean, McCallum was, I guess he'd be about Aaron Rodgers' age. I don't know, maybe a little older.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
Ralph, what do you think? And do you think it should be, I think it really should be a decision by committee with Glenn, the general manager, and the offensive coordinator, and actually Woody Johnson too.
yeah, well, obviously, I
Keep
don't
Woody
think,
out of it.
frankly, I don't think Woody should be in it, but he has to be, obviously, because,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's his dollar. But I think Glenn sees it like he's my best option right now. He's a veteran, and he probably sees a rookie. Yeah, I mean, the more I think about it, Salah as a rookie, LaFleur as a rookie, bringing in Zach Wilson as a rookie, that was just doomed to failure. That was insane. And Aaron Glenn as a rookie at this, they're probably going to get an offensive coordinator who is new. My question is, do they both have starry eyes for Aaron Rodgers and let him run the show, or do they know how to, or are they able to draw the line somewhere? Like this crap with these delay of game penalties. I mean, that went on way too long, as we talked about in the award show. It was ludicrous. It was embarrassing, and it was all because I don't think they wanted to stand. They were afraid to stand up to the guy. So that can't happen. So. Again, a lot of this is, how much intestinal fortitude does Aaron Glenn have? We love him as a player. He was a very feisty player, and I hope that, that translates to as a head coach too.
Ray, do you think Aaron Glenn can keep Aaron Rodgers in line? What's your opinion?
I think a lot of the Aaron having his way with whatever he wants I think a lot of that, if not all of it, has pretty much gone out the window. And I think Aaron knows that too. I think he'd be easily kept in line if he came back. I think, and I do think Aaron would stand up to him. I think that's the first thought he'd have is, I can't go in there and be a pushover and let this guy tell me, how he wants things and do it. Um, but I think also I don't think he'll just, like Rex, when he was on the interview, he was sounding like, it isn't going to be the country club for Rodgers anymore. I'm like, you don't want to be butting heads with him either. I think Aaron can come in there and be more, say, I'm in control, the decisions are mine, but still be he'll still listen to Aaron, I think, and I think that would be a
Yeah.
good thing.
Let me
So,
just,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead, Ray. I just
No,
want,
so yeah.
this is
I
from,
just want to say that's funny that Rex Ryan said it's not a country club when it was like a frat house and people eating
Animal House.
hamburgers before the games and stuff. Like, yeah, where does he get off talking like that?
Mark Sanchez eating a hot dog on the sideline. This Connor Hughes just reported this second. Woody and Christopher Johnson have been meeting behind closed doors away from any all chatter to come to a decision. And Connor Hughes says, I have talked to sources tied to the three men, Lance Newmark, Trey Brown, Darren Muji, who have received second interviews. None have been told whether or not they have gotten the job or not as of this
Wow.
minute.
So,
So,
wow, these disinformation or misinformation. What a new thing, huh?
but let me just get to this one, Ralph, because you put the question down. Do you really care who the GM is at this point out of those three?
Probably not. I mean, I could split hairs by saying Lance Newmark spent 26 years with the Lions, of which 24 of which were pretty bad. So, and and on the other hand, Trey Brown spent time with the Patriots and the Eagles, two great franchises. But then we can throw back that Joe Douglas was with the Ravens and the Eagles, and that didn't work out. So there's no magic formula to this. I don't know how these guys come off in their interviews. So at this point, I really don't have an opinion on it. The Lance Newmark thing, he's the one who has a connection to Aaron Glenn. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. I think these guys can find common ground. I mean, they have the same goal in mind. So I don't think I'd worry about that. You know, I thought, I like you, Marty, Trey Brown was intriguing because of his varied background. It was very interesting. He also is quite a good football player, like Aaron Glenn. So I mean, that's another similarity they have. But I at this point, I really don't have a strong opinion on any of them.
Ray, you have different parts or expertise of general managers. The position is completely different than it was, let's say, 40, 50 years ago. What do you think is the most important aspect or should be equal? Analytics, capology, have good contacts, relationships with other GMs and agents, or just be an old school evaluator and an old school scout? What would you like as far as the best attribute of
Well,
either?
the one thing that I would want first is I want a guy who, the old school evaluator and a scout, one who's really good at evaluating talent for what we need. That to me would be my top choice. A good relationship with other GMs and agents is obviously a good thing if you're trying to make deals and stuff. So that to me is important. I'm not an analytics guy as far as fans of that stuff. I think people rely on that too much. I'm it drives me nuts in baseball, especially, places like that. I'm of the old school, like Sparky Anderson. I'm not of the Tony La Russa age where they brought the laptop into the dugout. And that's the same. And that's what I don't like about, like offensive coordinators. I don't like one who's looking at a sheet of paper to tell them, what play to run because the percentages told them that. So I don't know how much analytics comes into play for a GM though. So to me, that's the least. Capology is important, obviously, because you gotta try and keep as many of the players you want. But first and foremost to me is scouting and talent evaluation and that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go next. I'm gonna agree, Ray. I'm an old school guy. I like the GMs that worked their way up, started as a scout, became like an area scout, then an assistant, head of pro personnel, then head of pro personnel. And we all know that the draft is a bit of a crapshoot. If you guys remember, like about 4 or 5 years ago, the New Orleans Saints had a ridiculously great draft. Do you remember that? The year they drafted, I think it was Lattimore from Ohio State. It could have been 6 years ago. That just happened. That happens very rarely But I want a general manager that makes his bones in the third, fourth, and fifth round. I happen to think like analytics and capologists, they have separate people for that. Not that they don't know about it, but they're aware of it. But I think they have special, Harvard mathematics guys doing that. So I would say I'm the old school scouting and evaluating. How about you, Ralph?
Yeah, I probably agree with you, but I think in the Jets situation, I really want someone who's very savvy with a cap because we got problems coming up
We're
in the
gonna
next
have
couple of years. As far as analytics go, I hate it for football. I'll disagree with Ray. I think if you're going to use it for any sport, baseball is the only sport that you could use it for because the numbers are right there. Football it's there's intangibles, there's teamwork. It's just totally different. All of these analytics they break down how players have done on offensive line. I think they're so random, and I can't stand it. I'm sort of old school too, and you're right, Marty. It is a crapshoot, so you can do all your due diligence and still screw up.
Joe
Uh,
Douglas, how high was he thought of in the
yeah, exactly. Although, and he had that one great year, and but it didn't make a dent in the team because there were other decisions that he made that didn't work out. One other thing actually I didn't mention in that list is Douglas. The one thing I kind of liked about him is when you made a trade with him, he squeezed you. He didn't panic and trade without getting as much as he could, and he was patient about it. And that's something I want to see in a GM too. I don't want these guys who just panic. And well, let's see. Yeah, I guess that's I would say probably well, look at our age. We're old school. That's the way I guess that's the way it works.
right. And we're gonna close this out in just a couple of minutes. And
You skipped one thing, Marty. One question.
but hold
All
on.
right.
I said in a few minutes. This is just rewind. We're talking about Aaron Glenn, the new head coach, and as we're talking, and I don't know when and where you're listening to this though, but right now Woody Johnson and Chris Johnson are behind closed doors to pick one of three candidates for the general managership. So we'll have to see. All right, Ralph. Now, what was the next thing we had to do?
No, I made a question about Aaron Rodgers last season, and all those interceptions he threw, which were so uncharacteristic of him in his history, because I think he has probably the best ratio of touchdown pass to interception until he came to the Jets, of course. And considering the fact that we all think that he's probably going to be back, what I was asking was, what do you think was the most important, significant reason why he was throwing all these interceptions last year?
I'm going to start, and
Mm,
I kept making comments, and I don't remember if I texted it to you guys during the game, but I never saw Aaron Rodgers throw off his back foot as much as he did this year. And the only thing is, he had like two or three injuries that were never really disclosed he was playing with. And I think Boomer Esiason said he can't step into the pass. It's very obvious. So I'm going to say the main reason was he had some sort of lower leg or somewhere in his leg injured that he couldn't step into the throw. He again, except for the Buffalo game, the last 5 or 6 games, he did look pretty good and he was throwing pretty well. But I'm going to attribute the interceptions to an injury that really wasn't disclosed. Ray?
Well, barring that, because that's kind of speculation. Boomer might know something that we didn't. But I think the biggest thing in my mind, and we had talked about it on at least one of the shows, one of the pods, that I think he just got to experience the joy of playing behind a crappy offensive line of the Jets, like our past three or four quarterbacks have had, and I think he started getting happy feet because he wasn't used to that kind of pressure, and he's not as mobile as he used to be, where he could have handled it better. He was still pretty mobile at times, more than I thought he'd be after coming back from that injury, but I felt like when he started throwing passes that, I mean, it just looked like uh, I'm going to get the $50. It looked like Zach at times just wanting to get that ball out,
Get the $50.
the ball out of his hand as fast as he could, anywhere he could. I mean, he just seemed like he was starting to feel that pressure, even if it wasn't there yet. And so I think the offensive line to me was the main thing.
Okay, Ralph, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, some of his picks were like throw it into a crowd and pray. But there were a few that were Zach Wilson like ones where he threw them and a linebacker he came from the other side and he didn't even see him, and that kind of stuff shocked me for Rodgers.
Yeah.
The Williams touchdown pick six, and was that something that he was just felt the pressure too much, or is maybe because of his age, he's not processing as quickly? I don't know, but these are important things. Yeah, the offensive line definitely. I think he had happy feet. I think it was A, because of the offensive line, and B, because he was worried about his Achilles. Hadn't gotten over it mentally yet, which usually takes an extra year for players to get over those kind of knee and Achilles. So in that regard, where there's hope that he'll feel more confident this year. But some of those picks, I don't know, they looked really like high school type things that you would never expect from Aaron Rodgers. I almost felt like at certain points it was like he was just so frustrated that he was just throwing up his hands and just throwing it out up against the wall to see if something good happened. And then of course there's the whole obsession with Devontae Adams and whether that'll be corrected this year. And that's another question. If Rodgers comes back, what percentage do you give that Devontae Adams comes back? And what kind of number is he going to ask for money wise?
I don't know, and I don't think I don't want to call it a jealousy thing, but there's definitely something with Garrett Wilson that he wasn't given the right looks. I know Ralph's going to say he had the fifth most targets in the league or whatever, but it was so obvious when Devontae Adams was there that Garrett Wilson was looked at as like a secondary receiver. I want him to be our number one receiver. So I mean, Garrett Wilson's got to be a big boy also. He's got to play, no matter what team he ends up on or who the quarterback is, he's got to play. I understand that. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I'm a big Garrett Wilson fan. I want to keep him happy. I want to keep him as a Jet. So I don't have an answer to that, Ralph, really.
So you don't. Oh, what do you think, Ray? About
I
well, for Marty? Do you want him back? Forget about whether you think he'll be back.
I want Garrett Wilson happy. If he comes back with the attitude, we're going to do whatever it takes to win. I'm going to spread the ball around. I'm going to look for whoever's open. Then yeah, I'll take him back. He had that game. Who was that game? That second half, he had 10 catches, 199 yards.
Yeah, yeah.
That was amazing. Why would you not want a guy like that back? Just on talent.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Anyway, Ray, I interrupted you. So
that's all right. I think that wasn't that the game we won?
the Houston game? Yeah, it must have been
Yeah, the Houston game. He had all the catches in the second half. I think a lot of it's going to come down to money, but because I don't know what Devontae is going to want either, and he'll get a fair amount of offers if he gets out there. But I'd be okay with him being back. I think it's some of the others if they want to save some money, get rid of Lazard, get rid of.
God, yes.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but if they aren't sold on Ruckert, then we might have to bail on him too. But I like him as a blocker, but he's got to be more. He's got to add more to the offense. I want to see some receptions out of him and some difference making plays that way. But Garrett, I think I don't think he wants it to be all about himself, but I think he felt like, and they showed on the replays a couple times open, and somehow Rodgers didn't see him when he was going for Devontae Adams. Now, thankfully, he's got that 500th TD pass out of the way, so we don't have to worry about that being a reason why he would look for Devontae. But but I think he's gotta spread it around more because I wouldn't mind having Devontae back, but Garrett's got to be right up there too. They both got to be. They should be an unbelievable duo, is what they should be. But it didn't seem that way at times last year.
I just want to bring one thing and then we'll close it out. If you guys want to add something, it's fine. This has nothing to do with the Jets. It's the situation in Minnesota with Sam Darnold. And my question is, number one, what do you think Minnesota should do? And number two, I guess, Ralph, you both might know this. Pete Carroll was named the head coach of Las Vegas Raiders earlier today. And I guess he wasn't the coach, Ralph, was he, when Sam Darnold was there?
No, it's Clay Helton.
Okay, but so he didn't even recruit him, is that right?
Probably not. I don't think they overlapped. I'm gonna guess.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the question to you, Ralph, is if you were Minnesota, what would you do with the Sam Darnold?
I,
And
I'd,
so you
I'd,
know,
mo-
the cap number for quarterbacks I heard is like 39.1 million.
yeah, I would absolutely move on from Darnold and give the job to McCarthy. Darnold the last 2 games was horrible. That doesn't mean he still had a good year, but I think McCarthy's cheap right now, and he's their guy. And I'm pretty sure that they are going to do that. And yeah, I think Vegas is not a bad place for him to land. I just wanted to mention my 2 cents on the Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson thing. I mean, I'm sorry, Marty, but I can't like baby this guy Garrett Wilson. Like he caught 100 passes last year. If Devontae Adams is the guy who's open all the time, then he gets thrown to. That's the way it works. You take what the offense gives, what the defense gives you. Now he missed them a few
Wait, I have
times.
no problem with that, but
Yeah.
if he's not going to look Garrett Wilson's way and he's
Well,
open,
right. Okay, he missed them sometimes, but quarterbacks always miss. They take one half of the field at a time. Was he maybe there were times, but Garrett Wilson has been like this for 3 years now. It wasn't
you
just
don't think that you don't think that Aaron Rodgers forced the ball into Devontae Adams during the
he
season?
he did at times, but what I'm saying is Garrett Wilson has been behaving like this since he was a rookie. And I think that no matter what happens, he's going to be complaining about something. It's just his personality. And you know what? He's signed to play with us, and he's going to play with us, and he's going to play his best because he's going to be playing for a new contract soon. And like I said, he caught 100 passes last year. It wasn't like he got frozen out. Okay, there were some moments, yes, and it was not good. But I think overall in the season, I don't think he has too much to complain about. But he's always complaining about something, always.
Well, he's a
Well,
receiver. You know what they
I
are. Go
think
ahead,
part
Ray.
of it is honestly, I think part of it is he's not used to being on a losing team. Every step of the way when he was coming
That's
up.
true. That happens to so many guys who come from football factories in college. They have to deal with it. Look at Quentin
They
Williams.
do, but
You
I
know,
think that's part of his frustration is he wants to win. I don't think he has a problem with if he doesn't get the ball if they're winning. I think the winning thing is the thing that's got him.
yeah,
I
that
don't
that
think he's going to complain about everything, though.
he's always going to find something to complain. He
Yeah,
complains about the referees. He threw a tantrum about that. He was right about it. He did get held, but everyone gets held, and not everyone throws tantrums like he does all the time. He's got to mature a little as a human
Yeah.
being.
well, no doubt. He
Yeah.
yeah he will. I mean, but all in all, I think it's just he's very competitive,
Oh,
and I don't. I
absolutely.
think
But the
I
league
don't
is
think
full of
it's just.
competitive players
Right?
too. Yeah.
Yeah, it
And
is, but I don't think it's some of these guys clearly when they're doing it, it's about them, and I don't think he's as concerned about his numbers as much as he wants to win, and he thinks he can make a difference.
I
And so
agree
I
with you
don't
on
I don't
that.
think
Yeah.
it's a how much he's thrown to. I think he just wants to win. And I think if we're winning, you aren't going to hear as much. He'll always have something to bitch about. All
Right.
most receivers do. They're all divas, but he'll be a lot quieter. I
right.
think
And
if they
we
just
are we are
yeah.
all waiting for Garrett Wilson and Marty Schupak to mature, and we don't know if that day is ever going to happen. I meant to say, it's the franchise tag for a quarterback is 39.1. Quickly,
Oh,
hey,
God.
what's your opinion on Sam Darnold and Minnesota?
Ray, yeah.
Ray?
Yeah. They should let him go, and they will.
Yeah.
Sam, I like Sam. I felt good for him. He had a good year, but when he got under pressure there in was it the Rams game? He looked so
Detroit,
much
too,
like a
before that.
quarterback that even when he had a guy wide open cutting across the middle, he couldn't hit him on time. He threw it about 3 feet behind him. And I was like, there's the under pressure Sam is not the same as the guy who was pretty much protected all year.
Yeah, it's amazing what an offensive line will do for you. But even when the Jets played Minnesota in London, the first half they were all over the Jets, and he had all time. And then the game started getting tight, and Donald started overthrowing guys, and I was thinking, oh, okay,
There he is.
yeah.
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 I like him, but that's just something that I don't think just the only thing that'll prevent it from happening again is to have an offensive line that just never
Right.
breaks down, which is not going to happen.
And he'll become a floater around the NFL, which isn't an
Yeah.
awful career.
Not at all, not at all.
There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with
And I
that.
think he'll get some good money. Someone's going to sign him to be a starter. And I
Yeah.
think they'll take a shot at it. I don't know if they'll regret it or not, but
Don't forget, Carr's brother got a Super Bowl ring. He was a backup quarterback for the Giants. Remember that?
yes,
The
that's
number
right.
one pick,
Yeah.
Yeah, number one
for
pick.
Houston before he just got beaten up so bad
Right.
they couldn't do anything.
Let me get back to my trivia question, which was
Oh gosh, yeah, I forgot
how
about that.
many NFL coaches, like today, as we mentioned, Pete Carroll got his fourth NFL coaching job. I only came up with two other coaches that have coached four teams. And Ralph and Ray both guessed that one of them was Bill Parcells, who coached the Patriots, Giants, Jets, and the Cowboys. Do you have any idea who the other coach was?
So you just came up with this, or did you read this somewhere?
Um, I read it.
Oh,
I,
okay,
I
okay,
saw it and then I
yeah,
researched it.
yeah, okay.
Somebody mentioned I researched.
Oh wow, I don't know. Wade Phillips. I'm just throwing names.
It wasn't like one of his stints was an interim coach, is it?
I
No,
can.
no. When I tell you, you'll realize you'll say, "Oh, you should have gotten it." Are you ready?
Well, you got a hint, maybe.
He's got a very good first name.
Can you tell us like what general era, what decades he was in?
I'll say the most known for 88 to 98.
Okay, so it wasn't Reeves.
Very good first name.
Uh, oh
Weeb.
man, very good
That's,
first.
that's
Better, Ray.
Not Schottenheimer.
Yes, Marty Schupak.
Oh,
He coached
Brown,
Kansas City Browns.
Kansas
Yeah.
City,
Kansas City,
Chargers, who
Browns,
else?
the Chargers, and Washington. I guess.
Holy cow.
Oh, that's right. I forgot he was on Washington.
Yeah. So, all right. Anything else as we're waiting for final word on the general
I
manager?
know this is like the conclave right now. It's like
Yeah. So,
Didn't
go ahead, Ray.
Ralph didn't we hold back on part of Ralph's question?
um well, I asked you the question about what the six Jet coaches had in common, which they all had a winning season, and hopefully Aaron Glenn will be added to that list. The other question was, when was the last time the AFC Championship game in which neither the Patriots or the Kansas City Chiefs were part of that game? And you guys got an answer for that?
I don't. I just for the fans. I just don't want to go without an answer.
Yeah.
So that's not right either.
I think the answer is the Jets against the Pittsburgh Steelers, believe it or not.
No.
It's
Yeah.
not.
Are you kidding?
I don't know that it was something I read in the paper today.
Oh, I can't. I can't find the history. Oh wait, list of AFC Championship games. All right, let's start backwards. All right, and let's see, Kansas
The last
City,
4 or 5 were the
Kansas
Chiefs.
City Ravens, Kansas City Bengals, Bengals, Kansas City Buffalo, Kansas City Tennessee, New England Kansas City, New England Jaguars, New England Pittsburgh. That's just to mention the year. That's 2016, 2017. Broncos, Patriots, Broncos, Colts, Broncos, Patriots.
Broncos, Colts.
Broncos, Colts.
No, I'm sorry, Patriots, Colts. Patriots, Colts, 2014, 15.
Right.
Broncos, Patriots. Ravens, Patriots. Ravens, Patriots. Steelers, Jets.
Can you believe that? Can you believe that?
2011. That's
Crap.
a great question. That's unbelievable.
So we're going on.
And the question was the last time neither the Chiefs or the Patriots were in the AFC Championship. That's an incredible question, Ralph.
I know. You know what? Maybe the next time it'll be the Jets too, huh?
Good. All right, for Ray Clifford, Ralph Schrader, and Marty Schupak, Jets Rewind. Listen, enjoy Championship Sunday. It's one of the best Sundays of the year if you love football. And by the way, I didn't mention, but congratulations to Ray Clifford and the Ohio State Buckeyes, who were the national champions. And for everyone at Jets Rewind, until next time.